Hey everybody, it's Chef Todd Moore. I'm back. I hope I ditched the paparazzi, but after all that commotion, we can finally sit down and be calm adults and have a nice cup of tea together. But there are a few things I really did want to tell you about tea, and Teatulia is the place that I get my tea. I love that video. I love the way they care for the tea and the way they do things. But regardless of which tea you choose, I want to go over very quickly the 4 basic types of tea. And starting at the least processed is a white tea. And I have these cool canisters. I got these online. I don't remember where, but they were $1 or $2 each. That makes it really easy to scoop out of instead of plastic bags and things like that. But a white tea, you can see the leaves. Put them on that plate here. These leaves look like something pretty close to what you would pick off a camellia tea tree. They're unprocessed. They're still quite green. They don't have a very strong flavor to them because really all they're done is steamed and then dried. It's like a nouveau wine. But the thing with white tea is most people misunderstand the real subtleness of a white tea, and the big mistake they make, the same thing with green, is if they don't feel like they're getting enough flavor from their white tea, they steep it longer. Well, with white teas and green teas, steeping longer doesn't give you a better flavor. Steeping longer gives you a more bitter, grassy flavor. Adding more tea will give you a stronger flavor, and I'll go over tea steeping times in a minute. White tea, least processed. Think of it as the nouveau of teas. Green tea, also steamed at first, but rolled and cracked and dried. And if I place this out on the white pan here, you can see the difference between the white tea and the green tea. Now again, green tea steeped very gently, and the water is a little bit lower in temperature. At 175 degrees, we steep our green tea for only about 3 minutes or so, and the same applies green and white. If you want it stronger, don't leave it in there longer. That just makes it grassy, and that's when people tell me, oh, I really hate green teas because they taste really grassy. Well, they're probably steeping it like a black tea that actually gets steeped much longer. Speaking of black tea, I got my brand new packet from Teatulia yesterday. I haven't even opened it yet. They come in these cool packets that are zip-locked as well. This is my favorite part. The first sniff. Oh, this is a really nice black tea, and I had an empty container somewhere. There we go. And the first thing I do is take my empty container, take my vacuum packed Teatulia tea, and I'm going to add that in there so I can scoop out of it. But let's take a look at the black tea, and you can see the black tea is a lot further refined and processed. It's left to dry, it's rolled, it's cracked, it's then fully fermented, which means it oxidizes. They let the oxygen get at it. It causes enzymatic changes, chemical changes in the tea, and then very often black teas are fired or roasted almost like coffee at lower temperatures, though there's not as much oil in tea as there is coffee, but this gives you that full, robust flavor of a black tea. And like I said, I like black teas in the morning. It has more caffeine, but only about half as much as a cup of coffee. But to me, the variety and flavors and the subtleness of tea, I prefer it to coffee. I just recently learned how to drink coffee. 46 years of my life, I didn't drink coffee at all. When I was in Paris this past spring, I got started on coffee, but still love tea. Lastly, let's talk about oolong tea. Oh, I wish you could smell this. And you can see how the oolong tea looks a little closer to the white tea, in that you can recognize a lot of the leaves in the tea. But oolong tea is pretty much halfway between a white tea and a black tea, which is to say that oolong tea is left to dry, then it's partially fermented. It's left to oxidize, not quite as long as a black tea, but then it is further cracked, rolled, and dried again. So there are different, actually I would have to do this. There are different levels of processing in tea that gives you the full flavor, or really it comes down to fermenting or oxidation. Now, how to brew your tea. A teapot with some kind of strainer. All right? And again, the ability to take the tea out of it when it's done steeping is most important. We'll start with white tea, and white teas get about 1.5 teaspoons of tea per 8 ounces of water. Now I've got 32 ounces of water, so I would take my white teas and give it, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4 teaspoons of tea in the white tea. And this is a silver needle. Sometimes it's a little hard to measure because they are long tea leaves. And this goes in my teapot before I pour the water over it. And that's the thing, be very careful not to dip the tea into the hot water, to pour the hot water over the tea to start that steeping process. My tea for, my water for white tea is at 175 degrees. And Chef Todd, how do you tell how hot your water is? Well, of course, with your handy dandy thermometer. If you're a member of webcookingclasses.com, you know how important it is to have a thermometer in your household. So it's a very easy matter of using my digital thermometer and making sure I get to the right temperature. The temperature is important for the different types of teas to get the full flavor, the full health benefits out of the teas. This has cooled off a little bit, but about 175 degrees over the tea. And for a white tea, it's going to be a pretty short steep, maybe 3 to 4 minutes or so, that we'll let that just steep in there. And again, this has an enzymatic action from the hot water. And when your timer is up, if you have a timer on your microwave or a timer on your stove, set your timer and do it that way. A lot of different gadgets out there to brew tea as well. This is my favorite, and I'm not selling it. This is just this is just what I like. This is a Zarafina tea maker, and it's all computerized. It's wild as can be. It's got this interior canister that you fill with water, and it plugs in down here. The tea goes in here. This canister floats on top of the water until the water reaches the exact temperature for the type of tea that I set on the left-hand side, at which, I don't know, some kind of thermostat in here opens up, it drops it down into the water, it steeps for the perfect amount of time, this spigot opens up, and it fills the teapot there. It's, when you drink as much tea as I do, this thing is just amazing. But our manual process is equally as good. So after a certain amount of time, we pull the tea leaves out, we're ready to enjoy tea. Explore this. Tea it goes hand in hand with all things food, all things culinary. In the future, we'll talk about marinating with teas, steeping things, making sauces in teas. Tea marinated chicken is excellent. Fish marinated in tea is excellent as well. There is a whole world that, if you equate to wines, the way different regions of wines produce different wines, different flavored grapes, you'll see the same thing with teas, and I hope you'll enjoy it as well. Hopefully, paparazzi won't be chasing you, and you'll have time to have a nice calm cup of tea in the afternoon, in the morning, in the evening, whatever you like it. But check it out, and Teatulia has agreed to give you 15% off your first order, so check out the link below the video.